Well, folks, you are listening or watching the saddest Lions fan in the world. That was tough. We'll save the Lions talk till Tommy gets back next week. I am solo hosting this pod, but I was joined by my good buddy Alec Warda for a fantastic interview. We talked World Series at AT&T Stadium. We talked marathons, what it's like to train for those things. I brought back the rapid fire questions for our interviews, so I think you guys will really like those questions. Had comment of the week actually at the end of the podcast, believe it or not, and some updates on some future segments. So this is the Pipe It Up podcast. Cue the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pipe It Up podcast, the official podcast of MLW Wiffle Ball. You guys are stuck with me for a solo pod. Don't worry, though. I'm not going to bore you guys alone completely throughout the episode. I brought on my man, Alec Warda, to join me. Alec, how we doing?
Thank you, Jack. I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm happy to lend a helping voice, I guess is what it would be.
There you go, a
A
helping
helping
voice.
voice.
It's been a while. I figured I was talking with Alec offline here before the podcast. I figured Alec would be a great guest, as a lot of you guys know. Alec and I go way back, even before Wiffle Ball. And I've had a great friendship, so I thought he would be really easy to make some good content with here and do a good interview while Tommy's taking care of some work obligations. So why don't we just jump right into it, Al? I want to get
Yeah.
the like wiffle ball talk out of the way.
Yeah.
So then we can get into some more fun stuff and some nitty gritty stuff.
Hmm.
But we are a wiffle ball podcast, so I am legally obligated to talk
Of
about some
course.
wiffle ball.
Yep. Yep.
So I guess I wanted to, I hate to bring up kind of, I guess I wanted to get your take on this, the World Series, like what an event to be a
Hmm.
part of, right? Obviously as a manager and a player, not the way that you wanted that series to go. But I guess just give us your description on like the whole event, the series, what the experience from your point of view.
Yeah. I mean, it was all well, how the Schultzes set everything up. At this point, they're pretty seamless at it, right? Like we got times to go to, people are there. I forget the gentleman's name, but the guy that was hosting us at AT&T Stadium. They were there on time. Everything worked super well. They were really super hospitable of us. Josh was there too, and he was taking us through the Rangers locker room and their workout room and all that stuff. So all of that is really cool. But that's leading up to the actual event. The event, of course, was awesome.
Yeah.
They still managed to do a really good job making it rather intimate, in those stadium. It's a huge stadium, right? And it's like impossible to make it feel sort of closed in, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
if you have people up in the stands, that's still really good, right? And it's super awesome, but the configuration very felt a lot like Chicago, right?
Hmm.
Or a lot like what I would imagine St. Louis was like.
Yeah.
So, that it was just super cool, really unreal playing in there. It's such a nice stadium. I don't know if you've ever been there.
I have
It's
not. I
it's
have not.
crazy. It's crazy nice. I've never been to a stadium that nice. Like
Really.
marble floors, like glass, like walls and stuff. It's crazy.
I know it was definitely it took a pretty penny to build that thing for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Um so obviously, the event itself was spectacular, awesome to be a
Mhm.
part of. Um what was what was like your strategy, I guess, going into that series? Because obviously the Eagles had just run through everybody in the postseason. The Predators are always confident. I've played on the Predators, so despite even our losing seasons, we were always confident going into our series. So I imagine you were going into this series. But I guess what was your strategy? What was your plan to take down the Eagles?
The biggest thing that I wanted is just to make sure, and this isn't much of a strategy, but to preface, nothing really. I mean, it was working up until then.
Hmm.
We didn't really want to change anything. Everything was still going pretty well, so long as we're all playing and we're getting even contribution from everyone. A nice "Wish You Were Here" poster, by the way. I have one. We have one out there, and I got one right there.
Yeah, I knew you would like this one. This one,
Yeah,
the people watching, they can't see this.
I
It's
can tell
Alec
from the
can see it in my
corner.
Zoom, but
Yeah,
PB is going to use a different cut because I'm recording on my phone. But Alec can see maybe like a 15th of this poster,
I
and
can
he
see a
knows
corner of it.
he knows what poster this was. This was side note. This took me months. This took me months to convince Sarah to let me hang this thing up.
It's
So we
good. It's
we
a good
did we
looking
did get
picture,
there. I appreciate that.
of course.
Um.
But yeah, okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So strategy. Sorry.
It's okay.
Uh,
This is what you
yeah.
guys get. This is what you get.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, nothing really. It was all working, so we didn't want to change much. The only thing that I knew we were gonna have to do at some point is filter some guys out of the hitting lineup at some
Mhm.
point, whoever wasn't playing the best at the time. And it turns out I wasn't playing the best at the time, which is why Rudy went in. But that was really the only thing. And at that point, it was a little too late. It's hard with like changing people out in games like that. Like, I mean, Rudy only went up twice, right?
Yeah.
Dallas was so automatic out there. He got all of us out so quick in that third game, and Rudy had only gotten two ABs. Probably should have pulled me earlier. But I don't know. You can't. I was trying to just lock in and see if I could do it, but didn't have it that day. So yeah, I think it was just that the only different thing, trying to get four guys out there, um, or changing up the four guys that we had out there, whoever wasn't playing. Or and so it was,
Yeah.
yeah, Rudy was on the bench game 1 and 2. So whoever wasn't playing the best, we're just gonna switch it out. So
I mean, I think that's a pretty easy hindsight's 2020. Like you were in the lineup all year long. You had another, vintage Alec year,
yeah.
statistically. So, I mean, I don't think you made a case to. I think the way you managed it made sense. You wanted to give some other guys an opportunity. You weren't having it that day.
Mhm.
But you also wanted to give yourself enough time to see if it really was, if it really was not your day. So,
Exactly. It's like
yeah,
one game isn't quite enough to tell. Like I was still, um, I don't know. I thought I was seeing it. Like I thought I could get there. So right, like you need a little bit more time to really tell. And I
yeah.
guess I was just confident in myself that I'd be able to do it. But that's
So
the game. That's
I
the game.
and then I wanted to ask, like, because watching that series, and no offense, but just watching that series, it's like you watch that video and you're saying, man, maybe 9 times out of 10 the Eagles win this series, like just with
Mhm.
how
Oh
dominant they
yeah.
looked in that
Oh
video.
yeah.
So was the vibes in the Preds locker room, after, like, man, we just, it was a great season. No matter what, like, we probably wouldn't have beat them in this series anyway, or did you guys kind of feel like you really like didn't have your best stuff, and didn't put your best product out there?
Yeah, we felt that we didn't put it all out there, and it's hard to put it all out there and go, shift mindsets into like everyday life into like now I have to perform. It's a crazy like change of like weekends, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's an us problem, or at least a me problem, right? So yeah, we just thought that if we were playing really good as we were playing, for sure we could have had a chance, but that doesn't mean that at our best, that the Eagles still wouldn't have won the majority of that 10 games, right? They're
Right.
so good. And playing it, it's like Dallas, they're all nuts. Landon is playing so good. And I mean, Silver Slugger, Dan's, they were just such a good team, and they were playing with a purpose. You can just tell when teams got it,
Yeah.
and they
Oh,
had
for
the
sure.
they had the juice for sure.
Yeah.
So, at our best, yeah, I think we could have like split it with them, go 5-5. Um, but I mean, they're super good, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
definitely, we had enough firepower to win. We should have had enough. Cratch, I mean, he's
yeah.
we should have had enough on paper. We did, but and defensive mistakes too. That's a big thing. But
In
what can I
very
do?
weird timing, I owe it to Tommy to save the depressing Lions talk until he
Oh,
comes back.
yeah.
But in a weird way, I feel somewhat similar with the outcome of that game where it's kind of like, you know, could we have won that game? And maybe should we have won that game? Potentially. Um, Probably. But you also look at it and you're like, they just didn't make any mistakes. And
Mhm.
they just, like you're saying, like they just had the juice. Like whatever that it was, they had it. And they deserved to win,
Oh yeah.
and it was obvious the whole game. So
Hmm.
it's sort of just like it's always bittersweet, right? Because you're like, man, we didn't really have our best stuff after like a great year.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's like you can't really be that upset with the outcome because, the better team that day won for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't. And it's like to your point with how it's such a game of inches. Like I'm pretty sure game one when I missed the toss to first, right? One mistake, that's the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? One mistake, that's the game. So it's like, of course, that's routine. I shouldn't have taken my eye off the ball, but still, like one mistake that causes it, and we didn't put the Eagles in a position to make a mistake either. So, or even if we did, not all that often,
Right.
in any of the games for that matter. But yeah, like it's just a game of inches. They were playing so, perfect for the most part, and that's what teams who want it do. So.
So I want to talk a little bit about Levi and
Hmm.
a couple questions on him. One, I guess, in because we talked about this on the podcast, just breaking down the award show. I guess in as unbiased as you can possibly be, do do you think that the rookie of the year was properly awarded to Levi?
I think it's always easier to see pitching. Being a starting pitcher carries so much weight. It's like why a running back will never get MVP. It's because it's like, well, I mean they will, but like it's hard for a running back to get MVP
Mm-hmm.
because it's they're not a quarterback, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
they're not commanding a lot of the stuff where like a pitcher is, as opposed to someone who is just offensive, with which, I mean, Levi, he pitched some, but once we realized it wasn't quite working out, stick him on offense, and then he ended up being nuts. So, yeah, I think it could have gone either way for sure. I understand how it could be controversial because of that weight that Jeremy has of
Mm-hmm.
being a pitcher. Um, but I think in the times that it mattered, Levi was in a position to make a bigger impact than Jeremy was, and he capitalized on that, which is really hard to do as a rookie. Jeremy did fantastic all season long, but it's always comes down to like how the end of the season went, like
Mm-hmm.
what taste was left in your mouth from whatever happened. And Levi was able to leave a bigger impression on the league with his postseason performances. And
Yeah.
that, like a postseason performance like what he had, is crazy. And again, all credit to Jeremy, but with just coming up in a huge game like that, it's really hard to do. A few of them, it's that's what I think really puts him up there. So yeah, I think it was properly awarded, but dare I say, if it was given to Jeremy, I could say, yeah, I think he's it could be properly awarded to him also, but I'm biased towards Levi, so and I know
Yeah.
how hard it can be to perform in such a position, so.
Yeah. So on the note of on the note of the pitching, like
Mhm.
I I think you really drafted Levi to be a pitcher.
Yeah.
So I guess as from my perspective and from a fan's perspective, the way that Levi ultimately how his season went was very surprising. I guess how surprising was that to you and to Ryan that he was performing the way that he was at the plate?
Yeah, so I we still knew he was good on offense. But we had already had something good going, right? And with us four, me, Cratch, Russell, and Rudy coming up.
Hmm.
So we were hesitant to put him in the offense when we were so confident with our core. It's just like we want him to focus on pitching. That's where we felt the weakest. We felt our offense was fine. So that's why we weren't putting him in the beginning of the season because we were like, our offense is good. So why do we need to change anything? Um, but when he popped off, no, I don't think I expected him to do that good in like such clutch positions. No, I don't. I don't think. Yeah, it was a little surprising, but um, you know, I still could see all of that happening because
Yeah.
I knew he was still good on offense, but
Right. Because from I could see fans kind of watching going, well, why weren't they just playing him in the lineup all year? Like why wasn't he getting reps at, closer to the top of the order like at the beginning of the year? But I agree with your philosophy of, hey, we really need a number two arm. And
yeah.
so that's all we want you to focus on.
Hmm.
Because there are guys, we obviously see guys that they pitch and they hit and it's fine. But I think those guys would be lying if they said that the pitching doesn't tire them out from a standpoint of like not only physically does it tire them out, but like the
Yeah.
mental capacity to like reload every pitch and just be thinking through your process and your locations and your pitch selections and
Hmm.
what you threw to the guy last time, like navigating
Hmm.
through a lineup. It just takes focus, which is draining. And so I agree with you there. I've done a similar, I've had a kind of a similar strategy with RJ, because it's like we really, we really, we struggle obviously offensively, but at the same time, it's like we need him to really be that ace on the mound.
Yeah.
And and for every piece of energy that he's focusing on batting is taking away from, energy that he otherwise could be focusing on pitching. And I know that's not like always the easiest thing for him, especially when he sees us not putting up a lot of runs, right?
Hmm.
But I do think there is something to that. So um I see where you're coming from there.
Yeah, and then even in terms of like I don't want to say it's too much to ask for him because it wasn't, but like even in terms of like scouting and like for him to develop like a pitching plan, because there were even times where our intent was to see if he can we can make him go 2 games. Like if is he good enough? Like we almost wanted him to be kind of interchangeable with Cratch, see if he was gonna be there so that like if
Right.
he crushes it one of the a game two then it's like, oh, we're feeling good. Let's just keep him out there. That's like kind of one thing that we wanted to encroach on. Again, never quite got there last year. But that was it. And then have asking him to I just wanted him focused on that, right? I
Yeah.
just want him focused on pitching. I don't want to divide his attention to try to look at pitches and try to. I mean, he knows what he likes, but tell him to look at other pitchers and all of that stuff and send him clips I want him to look at. Yeah, I didn't want to divide his attention too much. I wanted him fully focused on pitching, right?
Right.
And but I mean to whoever this fan that we're talking about, I'm not saying it's an actual person, but just back to that, and I'm sure people are wondering that. Yeah, if I knew he was gonna be cranking 2 home runs per game, yeah, I probably would have put him, but you never know. And it's hard to just be like, okay, rookie, you're starting now.
Right.
It's tough to do that. You kind of do want to make them earn it a little bit also, for better or for worse, right? But that's just like how sports goes, right? It's easy to
Yeah.
say that from like the outside, but like, how am I supposed to know the kid's gonna put? Luckily, we gave him a chance and he ripped it, seized it. But
Yeah. Well,
so
I'm definitely not I'm definitely not wishing, I'm definitely not wishing like a downturn for Levi next season. But I
Mhm.
am curious to see how he does
Yeah.
because not only, you know, like you just said, it's like, yeah, if I knew he would have been hitting 2 home runs a game, I would have played him earlier. Well, it's also very streaky hitting is, right? So
Yeah.
the streak that he went on, even though it was over like multiple series, right? That could just be a streak, right? I mean,
True.
we saw that with AJ, for example, like on my team where
Yeah.
last year in the playoffs, I mean, he got really hot and he was contributing, and then he ends up being World Series MVP.
Mhm.
And like I remember even Curdy being like, during the World Series, he's like, I didn't realize we had LeBron on our team. Like,
Yeah.
where did this guy come from?
Right?
And it's kind of like, man, why wasn't I playing this guy all year? This is great.
Yeah.
And then, this year, he gets a lot more at bats because of that and didn't have a great year. So it's like, it's streaky. So I'm
Mhm.
wishing the best for Levi. I'm very excited to see kind of how he takes this success and, builds off of it next year. But uh, I'm curious, like if that World Series goes different, like let's say after 3 games you're either up 2-1 or you at least won one game and it goes to game four.
Mhm.
Was your plan to just play, ride Cratch through 5 games, like no matter what, or was that kind of like a wait and see approach? I mean, who was the number 2 arm that you would go to?
Steve.
It would have been Steve.
It would have been Steve, which, yeah, it kind of was. And that was another thing that didn't give me the most confidence. Um, there's almost like a hidden layer of confidence that you get with just like when you're in a position where you have really one ace and you're planning on him being the guy to like be in those important situations. When you are in like a regular season series, you know he's going to get a rest, and Steve might just throw really good today. That would be nice. If not, I still am confident that Cratch is gonna close out game three, right? So there is that like that when you are forced to have a second pitcher pitch, you can be like, I think Steve could just play really well right now.
Hmm.
And it's really hard to say that in the World Series, especially when the games are five, right?
Right.
Like we can't, it's hard to just be like, okay, let's see here. It's 2-1. Let's see what Steve's got. So we would have done that, I think, if we were in a more comfortable position. Had we gone up like 2-0, yeah, maybe we would have like thrown Steve half a game just to throw it off.
Right.
Right. But if we were down, pretty much just crash all the way. And we had talked about the idea of him having like almost two different arsenals to where he could come at you from, like maining one arm slot or maining this arm slot for this inning and like changing it up like that. But again, that's hard to do, dude. That's asking Crash to do a lot, and you want him
Yeah.
to go and so it's just hard. But yeah, do really well offensively. So, but yeah, it was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like really relying on Cratch, maybe throwing Steven if we're comfortable, but
Yeah. I mean, I could see, I think if there is one guy to do it, one guy to be able to go 5 games like that, it probably is Ryan. I
yeah,
don't, again, back to kind of like the just, the fact that your energy is not unlimited. It's like, I feel like in a series where he's having to pitch 5 games and it's like an intense series, you're probably not going to get his best batting out of him.
yeah.
Just because of that fact. So, it's kind of like it's kind of just like pick your poison there. Like
Hmm.
you want to put him on the mound or get him at the plate. But yeah, I guess I wanted to ask, transitioning obviously after recollecting your thoughts and just looking back on the season, kind of what we could expect from the Predators in 25. I mean, is it same roster guy, same guys on the roster? Are we looking to add? I mean, I think just based on this discussion, it probably sounds like you want to build out your bullpen at least somewhat, but I don't know. Just what are your thoughts for roster management here going into 25?
Yeah, again, it's hard to make big changes considering we made it to the World Series, right? And yeah, Cratch hit 12 home runs in the reg season, but Ryan's Ryan, he's always going to be balling. So you can pretty much expect that from him. Um, yeah, I think just building out the bullpen a little bit. Levi is still going to pitch next year. Like
Hmm.
it's his first year. I can't tell, he's was 15. It's his first year playing. There's a
Yeah,
lot of pressures, a lot of nerves. It's hard to just go out there and perform, right? So I kind of give him some passes on his pitching last year, but I he's still planning on pitching, and it would be nice to, um, yeah, get another pitcher only. I
yeah,
think now that we have five good, well, streaky, Ryan's always going to be good. I'm pretty streaky. So is Rudy, and so is Russell. But Levi, I think, is going to be consistent. So I think that's still enough. That's
yeah.
enough. And then maybe our pitcher we get next year could also be good at wiffle or could also be good at hitting, which oftentimes they are,
Right.
right? So yeah, that's pretty much the hunt is primarily looking for a pitcher first, and then maybe cycle him in.
Yeah, I definitely don't. I definitely think that you can't write Levi off as a pitcher just yet. I mean,
Mhm.
just playing again, Tommy and I have talked about this, but like he definitely has stuff that moves. I think
Yeah,
his issue is just controlling where the
controlling.
ball ends up and he'll
Yep.
be fine. But in a weird way, I almost think that his success at the plate might help him on the mound just because he knows now
Mhm.
what it feels like to be in some pressure situations and deliver. And I think that could help his confidence on the mound, which to your point is a lot of it's about just confidence and managing your nerves and, just playing those head games and those chess games with the batters.
Yeah.
So I actually think in a way, his batting this year might actually help him on the mound. But certainly I expected to see him out there next year. I don't think you can write him off just yet. He's got all the abilities, just gotta
Yeah.
just gotta be able to lock it in.
Yeah, I agree. And there's other things that he just does better when he's hitting. And you can tell it's hard for the viewer on YouTube to like notice these things because a lot of these things are like before the pitch, like kind of routines, your cadence with how like you handle yourself out there. Like, everyone's got like I don't know, a certain style that they have at the plate. People have a certain style that they have on the mound with respect to how they set up. If they do have a common routine they do, like a pre-shot routine in golf, right? Like you got something you like to
Free
do a little
throw.
bit, something, yeah,
Hmm.
And it's like I always saw him at the plate just much more. I liked the way he looked a lot, like while he was there. His cadence, the way he would approach stuff, the way he'd like relax a little bit. He was a bit more relaxed up there. Um, so I think he was just more confident at the plate as opposed to on the mound. And you could see that through his body language and
Yeah.
stuff like that too. And that's some of the stuff that we're working on him with. But yeah, so I definitely the same stuff for next year for the most part. Nothing too crazy. Expect pretty much the entire roster to return for sure. Um, but yeah, hunting the pitcher, definitely.
Hunting a pitcher. Do
Hunting a
you think
pitcher.
that do you think that hunting of a pitcher is more likely to come via draft or via acquisition through trade? What are we thinking?
Um, it's kind of getting that time now. This is crazy. It's almost February. Wow. That's insane. I just realized that.
Did you just look at the calendar?
Well, no, I just haven't been thinking about wiffle ball really lately.
Yep.
Just been work mode. It is also weird since it does feel like just played, like I played in November,
Right.
right? My season ended in November, so that's like it's a pretty short off season.
Yep.
Probably just draft. I don't know if we have enough trade capital or people. Yeah, I don't know if we have enough trade capital to get someone that would be really good or maybe a pick or something. I don't know. Um, but probably just the draft. Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think we really want to let anyone go. And even if people are sitting, no one's sad that they're sitting. Like if Russell's got to sit because he's not playing well, he's like, yeah, I agree. If I have to
Yeah.
sit because I'm not playing well, it's like, yeah, someone else has to go out there because I'm playing bad, and everyone kind of has that mentality. So
Yeah.
it's not that anyone's going to get offended that they're not going to play. But worst comes to worst, someone just sits, which is fine. Just as long as the team's doing well, who cares?
Amen.
Right.
All right. Well, transitioning a little bit off wiffle ball now.
Hmm.
I wanted to ask you, we I saw that you ran a marathon
Yeah.
recently.
Yes,
Um
I did.
so I wanted to just ask, like, first of all, why?
Mhm.
And I guess let's start there. Why?
Yeah, it's a good challenge. I love exercising and stuff, and I don't know, it's good to mix it up, right? Like weightlifting is good, but you know what? We've been doing that since, I was like 15, and then that gets a little boring, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll get into calisthenics now. And I'm doing calisthenics, and even though they're different like strength training routines, it's still a similar goal,
Mhm.
right? You're just like strength training. It's not like I've never done long distance before. I've always also kind of hated running. So in my mind, I was like, ooh, if I can run a marathon, I win. Whatever it is, I win that battle between like me and running in my mind or something like that. So I was like, I might as well, that'd be cool to do it. Good experience. And um, plus, I also just kind of like having a goal, an annual goal to get towards like a long form goal. Like the training takes a good, I don't have the training quite down yet, but it's like a good, if done properly, it should be about more than that. It's 14 weeks, 3 months and some change, maybe 16 if you're really trying to get a good time. But still having one of those longer goals, I think is good for everyone to do. If you have the bandwidth, kind of just something to work towards, a new challenge and see how you like it. And I did like it. So I think I'm just gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I
Mhm.
It's funny it's funny the way that you framed that, where you said like you hate running, and so you felt like if you did a marathon, you would just win.
Yeah,
That's just a
whatever it
win.
is, it's
What
just a
so
win in
I
my
actually
mind.
I like that, because maybe I just got to start framing my mind like that, because the reason I've always kind of been like, yeah, if I wanted to do a marathon, like I could train and I could do it, but I don't like running enough to do that.
Yeah.
But I like the way that you frame that. So I might have to I might have to rethink about that. But what is the training like? Like if someone was prepping for this, over that 14, 16 week period, like
Mhm.
how often are you running? How far are you running? Like what does it look like?
Yeah, I was able to accelerate my distance much quicker this year as opposed to last year, just because my body had already it
Oh,
has
so
like
this was your second one.
this was my second one. So I did my
Okay.
first one in 2023, yeah.
Okay.
But it was still under the same thing and I enjoyed it. And I was like, March rolled around. I was like, I think I'm just gonna start, running a few miles every day just to kind of prepare for the hard training. Um, but a lot of it kind of depends on where you start. But if you're starting like from scratch, I definitely think you could train up to one in like 4 months. But say you're in like where I was in good shape, and it's like pretty I do generally do like pretty okay with athletics. So I was in good shape. I had been working out consistently for however long. So I was kind of able to get to probably a week of doing my first week doing like 1 mile a day, 2 miles per day if I'm feeling good. You don't want to do too much. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to
Mhm.
just start doing 3 miles per day, even though that's really not that much on the grand scheme of things when you're talking about this distance. You don't want to start off too hot. So once you get comfortable and this initial soreness leaves and you have some good shoes and you're starting to get like a good understanding of how, to train, 3 miles per day baseline. Try to get that up to five, maybe, yeah, on a longer weekday or something like that. But 3 miles is fine. On Wednesdays, I would do like a 5 mile, and then Thursday, 3 miles, Friday, 3 miles, and then Saturday's got to be a long run. So maybe your first long run starts and it's 8 miles, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's you just get through the 8 miles, the speed will come, just get through it. Try to stay consistent, don't walk, just try to get through it. And then you kind of just follow that, and every week you just increase that long run. So
Mm-hmm.
now it's 10 miles today or this week, the week after that, and now it's 12 miles the week after that, and then now it's 15, and then now it's 17, and you kind of like gotta these long runs are like breaking like a barrier to get your body used um to get your body used to going long distances, and like your
Yeah.
joints used to it, and like all of that. So that's like the running routine. Now, a really big thing, you got to rest just as hard as you're training. So if you're really feeling your legs are feeling bad one day, you just don't force it. Maybe walk, but don't overdo it. Make sure you're resting enough. Make sure you're eating enough. You got to eat like an additional 1,000 calories once you're running that much per
Mm-hmm.
day. And that's can be like time consuming. Um, so yeah, just doing that, resting just as hard as you're training. Um, yeah, taking care of yourself, stretching is huge. Make sure you're stretching, get a massage gun, massage your legs and like your body. It's a whole body thing too. So
So
yeah,
were you
that's it.
training in running? I forget what time, like what time of the year you ran it, but were you
Yeah.
training and running outside when it was like cold out?
My
I take
let's
it you're
see,
doing all of these runs outside.
outside, yeah, the
Yeah.
long runs at least. The other ones I can do a treadmill for 3 miles. It sucks, but I can do that. It's fine. You can kind of find something
Yeah.
to think about for long enough for 30 minutes to do 3 miles. Um, yeah, the majority, so the time it's in mid-October this year, October 23rd or something like that.
Okay.
So a lot of it was in the summer. So really hot runs sometimes. Sometimes it would be like 90 degrees and you got to go run like 15 miles. And that's like kind of you got to be on your nutrition when you're sweating that much. Like it's
Right.
kind of dangerous running that if you're sweating that much and losing that much sodium and losing all those electrolytes. You got to make sure you're on your nutrition and stuff like that. And I never really had any cold runs. It was my last long run was like 3 weeks before the marathon, and then I chilled out to let my body get to its full, and then you go and run.
Yeah.
That was late September, and it was still like 75 degrees out. Really
Yeah.
nice
It
run.
did stay
Really
warm
nice.
for a while. So
Yeah.
all right, so two questions. What was the last long run? How far did you run? And then I guess you can answer that first.
Yeah. My first year, my last long run was 17 miles. That was not long enough. It was not long
Mm,
enough. 17 miles is your last long run is not it. You need to be at least 20. Um, but this year I did 22 was my last long run, and that did serve
yeah.
really well in the end, especially in the depths of the race where it really starts to get hard, which is like mile 20. The
Yeah.
first 20 miles are pretty fine. Um, so yeah, 22 was my last one.
So how many calories did you say you were eating a day?
Oh man, 3,000. Yeah,
So what was
3,000.
your
So
go-to like to smash calories? Like what are you?
yeah, I was working out in the morning still too. So I was like in ultra grind mode. So I was like working out in the morning and then running either on lunch or after work, preferably lunch because I work remote. So I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. So since I still wanted to keep working out because I didn't want to lose weight, but I still wanted to get in marathon shape. Yeah, if you're crunching calories, man, protein shakes really because I just wanted the protein.
Mhm.
Yeah, protein shakes and ramen. A lot of ramen.
Ramen,
Yeah,
salt, the salt.
the salt is nice, and I always feel good when I eat ramen. I don't know like what kind of carb that is, but like Oh, and rice, of course. Rice is always really good.
That's classic.
I always feel good when I eat rice.
I'm
So
I'm I'm laughing when you say I'm laughing when you say that you always feel good when you eat ramen because I in college in college one time before one of our like brutal strength and conditioning sessions I was like I was scrambling and you know I needed something like quick to eat but I hadn't eaten all day. I hadn't really
yeah.
had a lot of water either, which wasn't great but I was so hungry. So I did 2 packs of
Uh-huh.
ramen,
Yep.
um, which is so much salt, like a ridiculous amount of salt. So and again, not probably wasn't drinking enough water. Basically, like by the end of this strength and conditioning session, like I'm still standing, like I'm running, but I literally cannot see. Like if you've ever had
Oh
it,
man.
if you ever had it
Yeah.
where like your eyes just start like close, like not like my eyes are open, but
The vision
your
gets
vision just
tunneled
starts to
in.
narrow
Yeah.
and it looks like
Yep.
you're looking through a straw.
Yeah.
And then at one point it was just like white. Like we were running we were running like in our inside like our field house so it was indoor um and so then so I'm like barely standing when I make it out like I'm crediting this to the ramen I think because the salt just like ruined me
Yeah.
so I go outside and it's like so bright that
Oof.
like it my vision literally was just like white. Like I had to like sit down until it like it was terrible. I felt so bad. So that's why I was laughing when you said that you always felt good when you had ramen because I've actually never felt worse. And that was probably
Yes.
the last time I've had ramen, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and wanna know what's even funnier is that's what I eat. That's what I ate before the marathon. Was a pack of ramen at
That's hilarious.
6 a.m. The pack of ramen. So much sodium, but
That's hilarious.
that's what I ate
Yeah.
before because I was just like it's good, quick carbs. It's
Yeah.
fast. It burns really fast, and I always feel like with my body, my body takes it well. So it's like,
Yeah.
that's hilarious though. Yeah, that amount of sodium is that's like 2,000 milligrams of sodium.
Yeah.
More than that.
It's a
That's
ridiculous
like
amount.
2,500 milligrams of sodium. A
I
ton.
never did that again. I never did that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice. But yeah, definitely.
Well, cool. I like your thought process on that. I don't know. I might take that into consideration. I do like having some sort of goal to work towards, like a physical goal, because I have been working out. Like I do work out every day, or at least every weekday in the morning, but I'm kind of just doing it more so to like stay in shape. And I don't
Yeah.
have like I don't have like a real, I don't have anything written down that I'm like
Mhm.
working towards physically.
Yeah, and it
So
is a fun process. It's like everything leads up. Like race day is like I'm nervous because it's like it's all led up to this. Like all of this time, like not only just running, but like spending time making extra food, like
yeah,
force feeding, even though you're not hungry, you gotta eat still. So like kind of force feeding, spending all of this time like researching, and then you got to get new shoes, like because
yeah,
your shoes wear out because you're running so much. So all of this like investment leads up to today. And it's also a really cool atmosphere. You get like definitely an extra jolt of energy, which can be a bad thing at times. Um, but yeah, it's a cool. I had never been in like a long form race like that. You know, I've never experienced like it all leads up to today or like a meet or something. Like I've never
yeah,
had that. So it was a cool new um I don't know, event or something to do. So it's cool.
yeah. It's definitely like it's definitely a different competition, but I could see why it's so
Yeah.
rewarding for sure.
And Rudy's like complete psycho mode. He's like going doing Ironmans now.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Rudy's getting into the Ironman scene. I think he runs one next fall. Or maybe it's like January in Australia. I think he's running the one in Australia in January of 2026. One of those ones. Um, but that's
Good for
complete
him.
psycho mode. That's crazy, dude.
Good for him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
To finish out your time here, Alec, I thought we would just I've done this before with some guests. Um, these are just rapid fire questions. So
Okay.
first thing that like comes
Mhm.
to mind, I guess.
Yep.
just to answer them, just to get them going as quick as possible.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's go.
So favorite month.
Uh, July.
All right. Favorite day of the week.
Friday.
One thing you ate today. Ramen.
What did I eat today? Buddy's Pizza.
Oh, so good.
Buddy's Pizza.
So
Yep.
good. That
Detroiter.
has been Sarah and I's guilty pleasure, and we have
And
been
that's
devouring Buddy's
yep.
Pizza. There's one like so close to us too in Auburn Hills. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's oftentimes a Sunday meal for me. Like, yeah, my cheat meal for the week.
Yeah.
And I just had some leftovers today. So yeah, Buddies.
Okay. Polar bear or great white shark?
Ooh, polar bear.
Best Christmas present you ever received.
Skyrim.
Favorite MLW memory.
2019 World Series Game 3.
Nice.
Hmm.
OSU or Notre Dame?
Notre Dame.
Oh, okay. All right, last one. Day to day or big picture?
Um, big picture. Big picture, baby. You
Oh.
know I am.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I,
Yeah.
I I appreciate you coming on, Alec.
Thank you, Jack.
This
Yeah,
this
it's
is one of the longer interviews we've had, but I appreciate you kind of helping me co-host this one.
for sure, brother. Always happy to lend a hand.
Sweet. Well, yeah. Thanks again.
Mhm.
I think it won't be hopefully as long since the last time you came on before we have you on again.
Yeah,
Who knows? Maybe Tommy will have some more work obligations, and then
yeah.
you'll be my first call.
Just let me
Because
know.
I feel like we didn't really even scratch the surface here, folks. And that was like
There's
45 minutes there of like
yeah.
pretty easy breezy conversation. So
Yep. Yep, that's
all
what you
right,
get. All right, brother. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on again. And then I'll talk to you soon. I'll probably see you soon too, yeah.
cool.
Sweet.
Thanks,
See you guys.
Wardad.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Alec. Always a gentleman, man. Classy guy to have on. I really appreciate him coming on. It's great to catch up with Alec. I actually am overdue for a real personal conversation with Alec. It's been a while since we caught up. So there were a lot of things I felt like I wanted to ask him and talk to him about, but I'll save that for obviously an offline call. But hope you guys enjoyed that interview there. Just to get into, wrapping up this pod here, comment of the week. No MLW video out, but I did just want to give a shout out to all the people who watched and listened to our podcast 2 podcasts ago, where, I announced that I had become a father, and just the big congrats to me and my wife was very appreciated. I really like this comment that said, "Congrats, Jack, but your daughter's first words better be bangerang or I'm unsubscribing." I got a great kick out of that. But yeah, appreciate you guys again with all the support. It was really nice and just heartwarming to see all the thanks and or all the congrats. So appreciate it, guys. I again, like I mentioned, the Lions. I have a lot to say. I know Tommy's got a lot to say. There's even sadder things about this game and the outcome that I won't get into now. That involves both Tommy and I. So I want to save it, and I want to have him back on to talk about this, but we will address it for you football fans out there. It has to be addressed, unfortunately. Um, Humble homeowner. So I haven't had, I feel like I always stumble, by the way, when I say that segment name, but I was the one that came up with the name. So like I can't change it now. But humbled homeowner will be coming back. I've got some projects lined up for the house around here. So I could probably almost guarantee the content is coming for that segment. So just be on the lookout of that. The next project I have is a DIY bathtub conversion. So we only have one bathroom in our house, and the bathtub in the bathroom is a spa bathtub. So there's jets and stuff. Um, and for those of you familiar with those bathtubs, if you don't actually use the jets, which we don't, they get extremely gross and dirty and can get like moldy. It's kind of nasty. Um, Now, if you're also familiar with bathtubs and have ever watched a YouTube video on replacing them, you'll know that they're not exactly the easiest thing to replace, depending on the way that they're installed and the type of tub they are. So instead of doing like a full bathroom remodel that's going to cost a lot of money, I'm going to try and do sort of like a DIY conversion from a spa tub to just like a normal tub. And I'm sure there are going to be many speed bumps along the way or road bumps along the way. So just stay tuned for that one, guys. But yeah, this was a great podcast. I really again appreciate Alec coming on. I felt like that was good conversation. We covered a lot, some whiffs, some real life stuff. Had some fun questions there at the end. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. Tommy will be back soon. The low in Brighton, Michigan tomorrow is -5 degrees, and we'll see you all next week.
Pump it up, 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 pump it up.